Already jacked up Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, with a little bit of election deviation, if you will. If you want to get away from all of the madness that today can cause, and if you want to talk some sports, listen to some sports talk, you're at the right spot. The WTOV 9 YouTube page and Facebook, jacked up Tuesday, November 5. We're going to talk a little bit of college football. The college basketball season opening up last night. All three of the Division I Power 6 teams of interest locally got wins last night. Ohio State, a big one in the Vegas showcase over 19th ranked Texas to start the year. They win that game by 8. The Darian DeVries era opens up with a W over Robert Morris in Morgantown. Pitt beats Radford at home last night. So college basketball is here. We're going to talk college football as the show rolls along, but we're going to start with the National Football League because the bye week is complete for the black and gold. 9 games remaining. It starts on Sunday in our nation's capital. The Washington Commanders hosting the Steelers at 1 o'clock. And it's a big-time matchup. It's a big-time stretch that the Steelers have to endure. At Washington, against Baltimore at home the next Sunday, and then you have to follow that up with a Thursday night matchup on the road against the Browns. And we talked about it time and time again, this back half of the Steelers schedule loaded with all the divisional games. Steelers have 9 games left, and 6 of them are against the divisional opponents. Haven't seen one yet. 3 in a row. Check that. I apologize. 4 in a row. Baltimore at Cleveland, at Cincinnati on the 1st of December, and then home against the Browns on the 8th. And then they take a break of the divisional matchups. Oh, okay, relieving. Not so much. At Philadelphia. Steelers never play well in Philly. They're a very, very good ball club. That's a matchup on December 15th. Then it's a Saturday matchup on the road against the Ravens on the 21st. Then on Christmas Day, the Chiefs come to town. It's a 3-game in 10-day situation for the Steelers from December 15th to the 25th. And they're quite possibly the most difficult combination that you can concoct this year. At Philadelphia, at Baltimore, home against now the 8-0 Chiefs, who win late on Monday Night Football last night over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in overtime, a last-second touchdown by Kareem Hunt. And then, almost fell. And then the Chiefs, or rather the Bengals, close out the regular season in Acrisure Stadium on the 5th. It's really the only silver lining I think you could find in this schedule, these 9 games for the Steelers, is that you've got a 2-7 team twice in the Browns, a team that the Steelers should beat twice, and then 2 games at home at the end of the season. Now, they're not ideal opponents. Joe Burrow and the Bengals to end the year, who seem to be getting a little bit more hot. They're 4-5 now. And then obviously the 8-0 Chiefs. But at least those games are at home. Like, they'd be a lot more difficult if the Steelers were trying to win the AFC North or vie for a playoff spot, and you got to go on the road for one of those games. Home games always bode well, especially for the Steelers and especially at the end of the year. So, silver lining there. It's tough. That is the consensus with fans and with people outside the fan base and in the national media surveying the Steelers, is that these last 9 games are a gauntlet. And on paper, entering the season, the Washington Commanders game would have been a game that the Steelers should be able to win with ease. But hold up. Wait a minute. Jaden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback, and it's not even close. Jaden Daniels is starting to assert himself and show the league, hey, I'm here to play. I can be a top 10 quarterback in this league. And he's got weapons around him and a defense that's playing really well. And that game's at home. That's no cakewalk for the Steelers fresh off the bye week. It's not. But the good news for the Steelers is they just came off of a bye week that they spent to get healthy in large part. Zach Frazier, hopefully back into the lineup this week against the Commanders. Nick Herbig another one that could potentially get back into the lineup this week. There have been injuries that the Steelers have suffered that when the bye week comes, it always seems to come in an opportune time. Pretty damn opportune time for the Steelers to have their bye week right now, getting some starters back into the fold. So with that, we're going to go over my top 5 storylines for the Steelers heading into the back half of the regular season. And now we're recording this for you late Monday night. We're going to talk a little bit about a potential trade the Steelers could make. But by the time you see this, the NFL trade deadline will have passed. 4 o'clock, Tuesday, November 5th. You're going to be seeing this several hours after that. And by that point, we'll know if the Steelers made a trade for a wide receiver. So that is on this list. But it is one of those things where you'll have to wait and see. We're going to take a Trinity timeout, but when we come back, those top 5 headlines heading into the Pittsburgh Steelers back half of the 2024 regular season. We'll be right back on Jacked Up.
The future looks good. The future looks good to me. The future looks good.
Our final Bordas and Bordas Friday Night Rivals regular season matchup coming at you on Friday at Wheeling Island Stadium. The Wheeling Park Patriots vying for a home playoff game in West Virginia Class 4A. It looks as though that they will get it with a potential win over John Marshall. The Monarchs come to town trying to close out their season with a W on the road. You can watch that game live on Comet this Friday at 7 o'clock. It's also high school football playoff action in the Buckeye State Regional Quarterfinals. 9 of our area teams still left in the Buckeye State. All right. Promised you my top 5 Steelers storylines heading into the back half of the regular season. We're going to get into those, and then we're going to talk a little bit of college football before we wrap it up. Number 5, Cam Sutton. How does he fit into this defense for the Steelers at this point in the season? If you remember, Cam Sutton was drafted by Pittsburgh in 2017, had a pretty darn good career for his first 6 years in the league, 8 interceptions, a very good cornerback for the Steelers when it was all said and done. Got a hefty contract from the Detroit Lions, a situation where the Steelers just couldn't afford to pay him, and he got the bag from Detroit, spent a year there. The season didn't go as well for Cam Sutton as he had hoped. Kind of took a couple of steps back, and then, of course, domestic violence allegations early in the offseason, actually just right after the Super Bowl. Because of that, Cam Sutton reportedly evading law enforcement. In the midst of all that, the Lions cut him. And then once the charges and all of that was situated, the Steelers signed him to a 1-year deal. And then when the Steelers signed him to that 1-year deal for the league minimum to bring him back into the fold, back into an environment in which he's familiar, obviously spending first 6 years of his career with the Steelers, the league suspends him for 8 games due to that issue for violating the league's personal conduct policy. So, as much as I really was not a fan of bringing a guy like that back into the fold with the Steelers, potential distraction there, he served his 8-game suspension. It is up, and he is eligible to return to the field this week. And how does he fit into the Steelers defense? Well, on paper, it's at slot corner, but in the last couple of weeks, I think Beanie Bishop, the undrafted rookie, has played pretty damn well. 3 interceptions in 2 games against the New York football teams before the bye week. Starting to come into his own a little bit. He talks about being able to watch film with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin talking about how well he sees Beanie Bishop absorbing knowledge so fast in his career. The size is an issue. The game against Dallas, where it seemed like they were attacking him and he was picked apart, is still a little bit of a concern. But I still think you're seeing some growth from Bishop at the position. So the question is, do you just take Beanie Bishop out of the lineup and insert Cam Sutton and make Bishop his backup right away? I don't think so. I think Beanie Bishop has earned the opportunity to be the primary slot corner. You can sprinkle Cam Sutton in situations where you see fit, sub packages, things of that nature. I would have to imagine the Steelers spent the bye week trying to figure that out. And as the back half of the season kind of unfolds, if Cam Sutton is playing at a high level, then you insert him into the lineup over a guy like Beanie Bishop. But until then, you got to get that guy back up to game speed. And for as much as he might have been on the field of practice during the suspension, which I don't think was a whole lot, you got to ramp that guy back up, and that is going to take a while. So I would have to imagine that the first 3 or 4 games of this back half stretch here, you're not going to see a whole lot of Cam Sutton. And the vibe that, surrounds that situation, I think, is a top 5 storyline heading into the back half of the regular season. Number 4, the run defense. Can they keep it up? Can they ramp it up? Patrick Queen talked yesterday to the media fresh off the bye week about how this team, particularly the defense, has not gotten to where at least where Queen thinks they're capable. Their job to create impact, Queen says, get the offense back on the field. And for the most part, the defense has played pretty well. I can cite a few run situations where I thought they could have come up with stops. And of course, that drive at the end of the game to lose to the Cowboys looked bad at the time, starting to look a little bit worse with the way the Cowboys season is starting to derail. And then, of course, Joe Flacco going in there and picking them apart when he got subbed in for the Colts. You might be able to blame them not being prepared for Flacco for that, but regardless, for the most part, for the majority, thought the defense has been pretty darn well, especially the run defense, 4th in the league in rushing yards allowed per game, and then tied for 4th in the league in opponent yards per carry, 3rd fewest rushing touchdowns allowed this season in 4. So there is room to grow. There is room to expand on that. If the run defense can, at the very least, keep that up, the secondary can continue to fly around the football. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, they do their thing. Momentum will start to take over. A good snowball will roll down that hill. And I think as long as there's no injury setbacks or just apparent lack of tackling out of nowhere, like we saw for the Pitt Panthers against SMU, which we'll get into in a moment, I could see this defense getting some positive juju, some positive momentum, some positive stuff going on in the back half of the regular season. But the run defense, I think, is a storyline. Can it sustain its top of the league success in the back half of a regular season, which is really, really tough. Number 3, the flip side of that, the run offense. Over 1,100 rushing yards this season. The Steelers, that's 5th. Or I'm sorry, I apologize. 1,105 team rushing yards this year. It's 10th. Still top 10 in rushing offense. It's something we're finally starting to see come to fruition with the Steelers. We thought the Steelers' identity was going to be a running team while Matt Canada was still the offensive coordinator, but there was such an apparent lack of incompetence when it came to the play calling. It was hard to decipher what the identity of this football team was on offense. Najee Harris starts to come into his own. Jaylen Warren almost out of nowhere becomes a starter-capable back in the NFL after being an undrafted rookie. Steelers have 2 really, really good backs and an offensive line that is continuing to get better season after season, game after game. And now a play caller in Arthur Smith, whose bread and butter is running the football. All of that is adding up to this culmination of elite rushing offense. And it's top 10 in the league right now. Can they keep it up? Can they keep it up against the Baltimore defense that looks more dynamic as weeks go on, only allowing 10 points against the Denver team and a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix that started to receive a little bit of positive momentum? Can they keep it up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who fly all over the football, no pun intended? Can they keep it up against Kansas City Chiefs, who, while their identity is Patrick Mahomes, that defense, and especially up front with Chris Jones, is and can wreak havoc? So can the rushing offense sustain the success and expand upon the success. Number 2, again, we'll know this answer by 8 p.m. Tuesday. Will the Steelers add to the wide receiver room? Darius Slayton's name's been thrown out there. There was reports that a deal for the Jaguars wide receiver Christian Kirk was done, and then Christian Kirk messed up his collarbone. And obviously that deal, you don't want to trade for somebody that's hurt. So it seems like the Steelers are trying. But do they feel like there's somebody else still out there good enough for them? I feel like it would have happened by now. I feel like it would have happened before the team came back this week for the bye week. In an ideal world, and you know, you got to find a party that's willing to dance, a partner that's willing to accommodate you in a timely fashion. But I think if the Steelers were very, 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 very serious about bringing in another wide receiver, they would have been more aggressive about it. Because of being more aggressive, they would have traded for a guy Saturday, Sunday, and the guy would have been ready to go, or at least in Pittsburgh and around the team as the week starts, getting ready for Washington. Not to say that it still could happen, but I just doubt it. And with, you know, a couple of names out there that aren't super enticing, we'll see. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that the wide receivers room for the Steelers will stay where it is. And number 1, my number 1 storyline heading into the Steelers back half of the regular season is, you guessed it. Do we have a drum roll sound effect? No. We have our little audio mixer board in here in the Digital Content Center. WTOV9's got a sound effect board. Like, I'll play the applause there. Clap, yeah. I was looking for a drum roll one, but this shouldn't come as any surprise. The number 1 storyline heading into the Steelers back half of the regular season is Russell Wilson. Did Russ find the fountain of youth? Did Russ turn back the clock and channel a little bit of Seattle Russ? Small sample size might suggest that he has. High completion percentage, no turnovers except the fumble, no interceptions, I should say, and a passer rating of over 111, which currently ranks 3rd in the National Football League behind Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, 2 quarterbacks that have been in serious talks to win MVP. Now, I get it. Small sample size, 2 games, but that's the biggest question. That's the biggest thing I think I have on my mind, and I think that fans have on their mind heading into these last 9 games. Is this Russ legit? Is he the guy? Will he be good enough to quarterback this team to enough victories to win an AFC North title? They're in it right now. They're a half a game ahead of the Ravens for first place. They have the opportunity to win the division halfway through the regular season. Something that hasn't been done in several years. Can Russ do it? We'll see. Those are my top 5 Steelers storylines heading into the back half of the regular season. Can Cam Sutton fit into the defense? Can the run defense keep it up? Can the rush offense keep it up? Will the Steelers add another pass catcher? And, of course, Russell Wilson. Those are the top 5 storylines, according to yours truly. AFC North standings scrolling at the bottom of your screen. The NFL slate for our teams of interest in the Ohio Valley also scrolling at the bottom of your screen, in addition to the college football schedule coming up this week. How about Ohio State's victory over Penn State? Are we surprised? Are we really that surprised that a team on paper, a Penn State team on paper that might be more talented, especially with some injury questions on the Ohio State offensive line, might be more talented, match up well, frankly. 2 teams that are very similar, predicated on the run with quarterbacks that can get it done in the second half and dynamic defenses. And the team was playing at home, Penn State. Can we really be surprised that Penn State might have been, on paper, the better football team heading into Saturday, but James Franklin couldn't figure out a way to get it done over Ohio State? Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, no matter who it is, Jim Tressel, could have been anybody. Couldn't get it done. I'm not at all. I even picked Penn State. If you watch Sports Friday on the Go with Don Sloan and Bill Phillips at the end of the show, we threw out our predictions for that game. I predicted Penn State to win that game, but I am by no way surprised that they did not. They slip in the AP poll. Ohio State goes up to 3, and the Buckeyes now 7-1, hosting Purdue on Saturday. It's big noon on Fox 9. Purdue's 1-7. I would tell you not to waste your time watching this game, but it's on our airwaves, so watch it. Ratings period. Go for it. And if you're a Buckeyes fan, it might be good, but the casual football fan, I don't think has to worry about this game at all. Ohio State should cruise to victory over 1-7 Purdue. West Virginia and Cincinnati. Now, this is an interesting one. Following both of these teams, especially West Virginia, all season long, and seeing Cincinnati play earlier in the season against Pitt, I'd have to imagine that West Virginia should have the upper hand in this one. But it is a road game in Nippert Stadium. West Virginia's 4-4, Cincinnati's 5-3. Kind of a matchup for both teams that can really define the back half of the regular season. Well, the back third of the regular season for both of these teams. With the exception of BYU and Iowa State, the Big 12 and the 3 through whatever are sort of up for grabs. I think this will be a close ball game, but I was encouraged of what I saw out of Nico Marchiol against Arizona. 18 for 22, 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty darn good for the backup QB. And I say that because Neil Brown said at his press conference on Monday that Garrett Green doubtful for this week. So you're likely going to see Marchiol start. If he can kind of manage the game, get guys like Traylon Ray involved in the passing game like he did. Ray had a longer touchdown pass reception against Arizona. And then, of course, Donaldson and White, get them moving, get them rolling. And on the flip side, you got to stop the run because Cincinnati can run it really well. They ran it really well against Pitt earlier in the year. And obviously that game being at home, could bode well for the Bearcats. But I like West Virginia in a very close ball game on Saturday to get above 500, get to 5-4 as they embark on the final third of their regular season. And Pitt, 8:00, hosting UVA. The Cavaliers coming in at 4-4. Pitt now 7-1 heading into this matchup. Was 7-0, but they got embarrassed, flat out embarrassed in Dallas against SMU. Not good enough. Missing tackles. Eli Holstein looked like a completely different player at quarterback from what we saw at the beginning of him in the beginning of the year. The run game couldn't get rolling with Desmond Reed. And the biggest thing was just the apparent lack of missed tackles. Teams converting on 3rd and long against Pitt. We didn't just see it a bunch against SMU, but we saw it against Cal. And in the win against Syracuse, a different kind of sample size because former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord threw so many interceptions. The offense under Cade Bell has taken a dip. The defense took a massive step back against SMU, missing all those tackles and giving up 48 points to the Mustangs. Can Pitt right the ship against the Hoos, who are 4-4? I think they will. I think they'll win this game by 2 possessions, not 3. I think you start to see building blocks towards Pitt of earlier in the year as Clemson comes to town on the 16th. But I like Pitt from anywhere to 9 to 13 points on Saturday against the University of Virginia. And that, my friends, will just about do it. Jacked up on the WTOV 9 Facebook page, YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at JackWTOV9 for all the latest in Ohio Valley sports and beyond. Again, regional quarterfinal action this week in the Ohio Valley for our area high school football teams. Steubenville, St. Clairsville, East Liverpool, Dover in Divisions 3 and 4. Division 5, you got Martins Ferry in Region 17. You've got Union Local in Region 19. Toronto in Division 6, Region 21. They're still in the playoffs. And then Division 7, Region 27, Steubenville Catholic Central and Conotton Valley. Those are our 9 teams in the Ohio Valley left in the Ohio high school football playoffs. Regional quarterfinals, Sports Friday on the go. We'll have highlights of some of those games. And of course, our Borders and Borders Friday Night Rivals game of the week between Wheeling Park and John Marshall. You can join Bill Phillips and Don Sloan for that. Highlights on the Weirton Medical Center Sports Friday of all the Ohio high school football playoff games in our area, plus a couple of West Virginia games as the regular season wraps up in the Mountain State. You know the drill. 10:30 on Fox 9, 11:10 on WTOV 9. We hope you can join us for that. But until then, friends, I am Jack Hillgrove saying goodnight and so long. This has been another edition of Jacked Up on the WTOV 9 digital platforms. See ya.